and our Town of Babylon Industrial Development Agency and our economic development folks. We thought it was very important today to have this program in conjunction with our partners at the Farmingdale College Small Business Development Center. And I'm happy to have Erica Chase here with me, who runs that fantastic organization that helps countless small businesses across the town of Babylon and Long Island. We all know that small businesses have been going through an incredible struggle during this pandemic. And, while there is light at the end of the tunnel with, the vaccine now coming online and being distributed more, small businesses are still struggling. The ever-changing, rules and regulations regarding restaurants and dining and social distancing has really had a very dramatic effect on people's livelihoods. And as small business owners know, you take care of your employees first and you take care of yourself last. And, thank you to all the small business owners that are out there watching today and learning a little bit about these programs, and know that, we really value your contribution to what you give to the local economy and to your community. So let's talk a little bit about the Small Business Development Center. Why don't you just give everybody a little quick overview as to what you guys do over there?
Sure. Thank you, Councilman Manetta. I'm Erica Chase-Gregory. I'm the Regional Director of the Small Business Development Center at Farmingdale State College. We work with small businesses each and every day, one-on-one. Our services are free. So wherever they need help with in terms of their business growth or business start, we're there to help them. So we can work on their business plans, financial plans, marketing plans, procurement questions, regulation questions, anything that they have when it comes to their business and kind of wanting to touch base with a partner, if you will, but we help them along the way. Since March, we've been in full disaster mode, helping small businesses navigate the different programs from the economic disaster loans and the PPP, as well as any other programs that came about. And today we'll talk about where we are now and what we have available to help you through this more recent stimulus package that came out of Congress.
And how does your organization, you're affiliated with the Small Business Administration, right?
Yes, we are not the SBA, but we are a technical assistance center. We're a technical assistance partner of the SBA. So we help the businesses go through the different programs that come out of the SBA. We help with the forms and processes and procedures and things like that. So we are funded by the SBA through the federal government as well as New York State. So we're a quasi-federal state agency, and each county has an SBDC that can help the business. We're lucky that on Long Island we have two. So I have my center at Farmingdale State College, and there's another SBDC center at Stony Brook University. So we have about 25 total business advisors available to help the small businesses on Long Island.
Great. So we know that the first go around early in the pandemic, Washington approved and rolled out the EIDL, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, and the PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program. So that first round was open, it was subsequently closed, and now Washington came back as part of a new round of funding and reopened both programs. So when people hear that, it's going to lead to some confusion perhaps, and there's a lot of clarification that I know that's needed for sure. So one, are the programs open? And two, can companies apply for these programs if they already have an initial EIDL loan or a PPP loan?
Sure. So yes, both programs are open. So originally the EIDL program had an expiration date on it, which during this past stimulus package, that expiration just went down the line. So the EIDL is now available to apply for through December 31st, 2021. If you've already had your application in and it's still pending, you don't need to do anything else. It's just going to continue to be processed. You don't apply for another loan. If you may have been denied and you want a reconsideration for your loan that you had applied for, you can do that. Any of the documentation that you would have received from the SBA, you'll have all of those details on how to do a reconsideration for a denial. If you need additional financing for your EIDL, there's a process for that. But if you've never applied for EIDL, they are accepting new applications for EIDL. And if you're, like I said, if your application is already in, it will just continue to be processed through the end of this year, 2021, or until funds are exhausted. We don't think that that will happen. So just, if that's the loan you want to go for, it's a great product because that can go out to a 30-year term. And it's got a great interest rate of 3.75 for small businesses and 2.75 for not-for-profits.
And that program you applied directly through the SBA for?
Yes. And the SBA.gov is their website, and you'll find at the top banner COVID relief, and you'll just hit that and you'll come up with the EIDL loan and the PPP loan, all of the information, forms that you need, and so forth. So the PPP, which you asked about, it was closed and then reopened under the stimulus package that was just voted on. So that is now open, and there's some things that you need to know about that. The expiration date to apply for this new round of PPP is March 31st, 2021. So there is a bit of a short window there to apply for these funds. I do think a lot of things will be a lot smoother this time, so you'll want to get into that. We're being told by the end of this week, most of the banks will have their portals up. So it's important to go on to the portal that you had used for the first PPP round, to see if your bank's portal is up where you can apply, or just contact your banker. And they will let you know what's happening, when it's opening, and so on and so forth.
And the best approach for the PPP is, if you received it the first time, is to go back to the same lending institution and put in a request for a second draw? Yes.
So that's the best way, because they already have your information in there. But if, some businesses had a really hard time with their bank getting through the first one, they've gotten their money, and perhaps you do want to switch lenders, and you can do that. You can go to maybe a smaller community financial institution that is taking applications, and you can connect with us. If you had a really hard time with your lender the first time, we can connect you to one of our resource lenders that are, working very diligently with the smaller businesses. So you don't have to go to the same lender, but if you were successful, I would say that's the best bet.
And how about, from the program's first iteration to now, has there been any changes that you know about between both programs that, folks need to know about?
Yeah, so just as a step back, there is a PPP first draw, and that means this round. Forget the last PPP. PPP first draw means just that. You never received PPP ever, and you want to be the first to apply, first time applying. So there is that program that you can do if you've never received the PPP. That is for small businesses with less than 500 employees, not-for-profit, veteran organizations, self-employed, sole proprietors, independent contractors. And then existing PPP borrowers, so you've received it, but did not receive the forgiveness by the end of December, and that you returned some of your funds. So just say you got it and said, no, this isn't for me, I don't need it all. You would be considered a first timer, so you can go ahead and do that first draw application. For the people who received PPP before and they want to go for the second draw, that's what they're calling it, things have changed. So they've changed. You need to have only 300 or less employees, which sounds very big for Long Island. 98% of our businesses do fit into that 300 or less. And the big change for this program is that you must show a 25% decrease in revenues. So you can pick a quarter in 2019 and the same quarter in 2020, you would have had to see a 25% decrease in revenues. So that's a criteria that you have to meet. And there are other ways we can calculate that 25% decrease. So if you don't meet that real quick by looking at your financial statements, contact an SBDC and we can give you all of the details on how to calculate your decrease in revenue. The other big thing that you need to know about the second draw is that if you receive the first PPP, you need to have had spent all the money that they gave you on eligible expenses for the program. Or you will have to say, yes, I'm going to spend it the way the program was designed by the time you receive your second PPP. So it's really important if you're sitting on a lot of cash from that program and you can't spend it, the SBA, the program is saying, hey, you don't really need it because that money can go forward and help you sustain your business. So it's really important to finish up your financials and your accounting on that first PPP.
Gotcha. Okay. And regarding the forgiveness, the initial PPP loan that a business might have gotten, the forgiveness process, I know seemed a little bit tricky for some people. Are you still able to apply for forgiveness for the first round of PPP? And is there a window where it expires that you can not apply any longer?
No, so for forgiveness, the rule on the forgiveness for the first round was that you have up until the end of your loan. So really up until when you have to pay if you have a 5-year term for your loan, you have up until then to forgive that, to ask for forgiveness for that loan, to apply. At the end of your, let me just go to my notes because I wrote them all down for this. This is really important, and I really suggest you kind of wrapping that last PPP up, giving them all of the information that you need, the expenses that you paid to make sure that you're fully forgiven and move on to your next PPP. But you can apply for PPP second round, second draw, even if you didn't apply for forgiveness. But let me just go through the forgiveness. So you have your covered period is either 8 weeks or 24 weeks of expenses from the time you were dispersed your PPP loan, right? So you're going to look at those expenses over that covered period. You're going to give the bank with your forgiveness application, those expenses, they're going to forgive that loan. Done. So again, you have, if you received your loan prior to June 5th, 2020, your covered period was at the end of December. So really, this is the time you should have all your ducks in a row to be able to apply for forgiveness for that first PPP. And again, the SBDC is here if you have questions on your forgiveness application. But again, all of the details for the rules and regulations, the application is on the SBA website, but we're here to help you.
Okay, so we have, we know that the 2 loan programs are open. We know that most financial institutions should be ready to start accepting the applications for first draw or second draws. Farmingdale SBDC is there ready to help with any questions and concerns people might have regarding the applications. So we have all that in motion now. And so from your experience looking at the first go around of applications and working with the numerous small business owners that you were working with. Is there any kind of like tips and guidance that you might have, in terms of, going through the application process, either one for the first time, if you weren't a recipient before, or, the second time, moving forward with some of the new guidelines that are out there?
Well, I think, like I said before, the application is pretty straightforward and pretty easy to follow. So some of the things, and people who have gone through the process before are familiar with looking at your average monthly payroll, and they can use 2019 payroll, which is really important. This was prior to the real hit of COVID. So you can go all the way back to looking at your average payroll for 2019 or 2020, average monthly payroll times 2.5%. And that's your loan amount that you're going to go for. People became very comfortable with, I understand that I need to use this money to be forgiven for 60% for my payroll, or 100%, and 40% could be used for other expenses. And the change with the other expenses has expanded this round. So that's great to know too. So one of the things that has changed with it is that they're allowing, let me just get my notes. This is all new. This is all put out yesterday from the SBA. So if a business had expenses for worker protection, COVID-related expenses, for instance, if you bought your employees PPE, those expenses could be used for this round. If you had any damage, property damage caused by COVID-related incidences, and that's more for looting, that probably happened more in the city than out here, but that can be done. Certain supplier costs and expenses of operations. So if you put in a filtration system for operations, that could be used. If you had, if you spent money on a web-based or cloud-based software, that can be used. So we're getting more and more details on those expanded expenses that can be used to offset your costs, but those things are also a great change for this round. The other thing, the types of businesses were expanded for this round, which some organizations were kept out. For instance, 501c6s, 501c6 is Chamber of Commerce's, trade associations. They are now eligible to apply for the first time through this second draw. So again, if you have questions because it's your first time, you don't know what lender to go to, connect with an SBDC or someone that's been through it, and they can help you through that process the first time. Housing cooperatives also are allowed to apply, and destination marketing organizations, which is a small group, but it's important because those are the visitor and convention bureaus that we may have on Long Island.
Gotcha. Yeah. So a couple of questions that have come up, I know. So what happens if has there been guidance at all from the SBA on if a business started in, March of last year, but they don't have a quarter from 2019, the year before, to compare to? Are they still eligible to participate on a second draw?
Yeah, they would have had to have been in operation in February of 2020. Okay. So right before COVID hit. If it's a new business, they decided to get into business, then unfortunately that's more difficult to say that they were that their business was affected. It was this and now it's this due to COVID. But as long as they were in business in February of 2020, they're eligible to apply. And the other big change for businesses, and this affects a lot of our Long Island, the food sector business, they can calculate this time 3.5 times their payroll rather than 2.5 times their payroll. So that's really going to help out the restaurant and food sector industry that we have on Long Island. Yeah, so we'll really want to get that information out to our restaurants for the second round. I'll be working with the New York State Restaurant Association to make sure that they know that, to get it out to all of the restaurants. And certainly the town of Babylon, you guys are always so great with getting information out. We have a lot of eateries in Babylon.
Yeah,
So.
that's super important that we get that message out there, because sometimes you might have smaller size restaurants that might not be part of a large trade association. So it's really important that that information really filters down through our local chamber of commerce, that I know many are participating and watching today, and we're kind enough to share this program information with their members. But yeah, that's an important part, because that's an extra almost accelerator that food industry and restaurant industry can access 3.5 times rather than 2.5 times.
Mm-hmm.
So we have these programs that small businesses can apply for, that SBA is rolling out, and that you're going to be helping many people with, again, I'm sure, and already started from what you said. How about other forms of accessing capital and grants? I know that small businesses are always on the hunt to try and get other sources of capital, especially during times like this where their revenue is so stressed, and many expenses are still fixed. So I know New York State recently, I saw put out, I believe through Empire State Development, a grant program for bars and restaurants, that they could apply through New York State and access grant money for certain expenses that they're incurring. Have you heard of anything similar that you might want to share with everybody?
Yeah, so Empire State Development, New York State, has some great programs to look into to see if they would be a great match. And one of them is the Raising the New York State Bar Restaurant Recovery Fund. And like you said, that's available to restaurants and eateries that really are full service, but some restaurants that may have gone fully takeout during the pandemic, and that there's a grant up to $5,000 that's available for eligible restaurants, and that's for purchase of PPE or sanitation supplies, or perhaps you purchased heaters for outside dining. Those reimbursements that grant can go to reimbursing for those expenses. So that program is available. That just opened up on the 11th, so that's new. There's a small business lease assistance program. There's no money tied to this, but a lot of our Long Island landlords and tenants are having a difficult time dealing with their leases, right? Whether you're a tenant and you're like, I can't pay, landlord saying, you gotta pay, and they've been put on hold and they can't do anything about it. New York State, Empire State Development has partnered with attorneys, and they'll do this pro bono for the landlord or the tenant and do a renegotiation of their lease to try to stabilize that relationship between the two, which is really great. Because a lot of people are like, I don't have the money for an attorney, or I don't want to get involved with that. But this is a way to mediate those issues to try to, again, stabilize that relationship, which is so important. We don't want just somebody to leave a landlord, and we don't want a landlord to say, you're out, and then have to sit on an empty property. So trying to renegotiate. So that's another program. New York State Digital Initiative is also through Empire State Development. They've done a great job at making partnerships with online digital platforms, which can then do business with a small business, depending on what they do. So there's a program for restaurants to expand their use of social digital platforms to do more online ordering and payment processes and delivery. So if you're not in that space and you want to expand your business to the digital space, there are lower costs for New York businesses through these partnerships. The SBDC, we've been trained from all these platforms and given all the details of what makes sense for what business. So you really want to connect with the Small Business Development Center, whether it's at Farmingdale or Stony Brook, and our business advisors can walk you through what makes sense for you and get you some training on how to use it, and see where the cost savings to expand your business. So that's another program. And then another loan program through Empire State Development is still available. It's the New York Forward Loan Program. So this is it's a loan, not forgivable, but it's a 5-year term with a 3% interest rate for small businesses. And not-for-profits can access this loan also at 2%. So it's a great loan program, up to $100,000 for working capital. So it's there. All of these programs can be found on their website. If you go to esd.ny.gov, and then when you scroll down, you'll see COVID-19 business resources. You just click there, and all of them are very clearly marked, and you can look to see if you would be eligible and then how to connect. And again, can't stress it enough. When you see a program and you get overwhelmed, just connect with an SBDC, and we can say, yep, that's going to work for you, and this is how you apply, or if you need help with any of the forms. Those are through New York State as of right now. We anticipate some more popping up. I really think that once the administration changes on the federal side, President-elect Biden is talking about trillions of dollars going into the next stimulus package, and I think a lot of states will get a lot of money to help them get through what they're going through. I mean, their fire, police, teachers are hurting, and the state budgets. So I think there'll be money put aside for the small business community within the state again, and that money will, I think, from history shows, it will funnel through ESD or even come to localities like Town of Babylon. They may see something which would be great. And you guys have always been.
Yeah, in our IDA, Town of Babylon IDA, which, Deputy Supervisor and Councilman Tony Martinez works very closely with. They have done a great job throughout, the pandemic in terms of communicating to businesses, offering programs, offering funding programs, getting into the community, providing PPE, doing surveys. And I encourage everybody to also reach out to the Town of Babylon IDA and see, what programs and help might be available through that organization, as they do a really good job. I know you mentioned earlier about, we were talking offline about a new program you heard about today regarding venues that get funding.
Yep, so it's called the Shuttered Venue Grant program. So this is for music venues, theaters, live performing venues, if you will. It's just rolling out. They don't have any information up on the SBA.gov site yet, but they will within a couple of days. But we got a little bit of a highlight from it today, which is great. And they have Congress put $15 billion into this fund for this program. $2 billion of it, and now that's a lot of money, but you're talking about, a lot theaters in New York City, they're going to be, looking to get those grants, but $2 billion of that is for small operators. So those are the ones we see on Long Island, the music venues and such. So up to, for venues that have 50 or less employees, they can apply for this. The maximum grant is $10 million per. What they're going to be doing is looking at the gross earned revenue over a 12-month period, and then the average, and then multiplying that by 6. But it's 45% of your gross earned revenue, and multiplied by 6 up to that $10 million. So I think that's going to be a great grant program. Does not have to be repaid. It also includes museums, aquariums, which we have plenty of museums on Long Island, right? Zoos, movie theaters, live performing arts venues. You must have been in business in February again. And then this is important because we're just getting details about this. If you receive the PPP prior, fine, but you cannot go for a new PPP and this grant. So I reached out to one of my clients just before we got on, and I said, hey, just give us a couple of days so I can get more information to make sure that maybe this will work for you.
Yeah, which is a better program.
It is a better program because the amount is going to be higher and it's a grant. So we want to make sure. So if you're in one of those, business types, you'll want to just sit back and wait just a little bit just to see. And I know people are anxious because the window to apply for PPP is only until March. They do not think they're going to run out of money like they did the last time. So just know that you have some time, and they're putting together this grant program for the shuttered venues. And we're going to get more information. I'll share it with you, Councilman Manetta, so you can put it on, your social media and information. But again, you can always check back with the SBA.gov. I'm sure there's going to be a whole section on their website. It's a lot easier to navigate their website now through the SBA than it had been previously. So you'll want to check back with them, or of course the SBDC.
Great. And so how do people contact your organization?
Sure. The best, easiest way, because we're still all working remotely, is emailing SBDC, short for Small Business Development Center, SBDC at farmingdale.edu. And either Maria or Maggie or Sarah, I have 3 assistants that will contact you, set you up to meet with a business advisor virtually. So through email or phone or a Google Meet like this, Zoom, and then they'll work with you on your specific questions and your specific needs for your business.
Great. I want to thank you for joining today. It was great. It was super informative. Any small businesses out there or service providers that need more information, you can contact Erica, but you could also feel free to contact my office in the town of Babylon. 631-957-4482 is my office phone number. Facebook under Anthony Manetta. And want to thank my colleagues in the town of Babylon, Supervisor Rick Schaefer, and my fellow town board members, Councilman Tony Martinez, Terry McSweeney, and Chase-Gregory for really working diligently and hard throughout this time, very challenging time, not just to keep town services running and protecting and making sure our town workforce is doing the job for the people, but also for our small business community. So if you're out there listening and you're a small business owner, also check out your local Chamber of Commerce's. They have been doing a fantastic job throughout not just the pandemic, but in general. Chamber of Commerce has really added a lot of value to your business, to the local community. So be sure to check them out and consider joining one of your local chambers because they do a great job. And thanks to all the chamber presidents and members and boards for always promoting these types of events and sending the programs out there to your members. It really makes a difference. So thank you very much. Again, I'm Councilman Anthony Manetta, and thank you, Erica, and the Farmingdale Small Business Center.
You're very welcome. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Hey, we're off.